What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a long overdue deck video. I did take a short break from the content and a whole bunch of IRL stuff has been going on, but I should be good now. Just some quick updates. If you guys haven't noticed, all of the streams have been taking place on Twitch, unfortunately, and I know there's a few viewers who prefer YouTube, but this change had to be made. Some good news though, there might be more time for me to post videos and maybe stream more days coming up, so stay tuned for that. I've had a rather decent opening to my schedule. For now, streams on Saturday through Monday are still good, but hopefully extra days start to flow in. Onto the deck, it is kinda late, but welcome to my post-ban list virtual world deck list. I did not want to play this deck during the era of VFD, so I was waiting on the ban list to try this out. Upon doing so, I was not disappointed, as I did enjoy playing this deck a lot more than I would have if it was just VFD Turbo. The main deck hasn't changed for the most part from the old versions, and a lot of players have been working in some things that I've noticed, such as Psychic Tracker and Wheel Eater, along with Destiny Hero Malicious. I decided to keep things simple for the most part, partially to learn the deck more than anything, since my early duels had a lot of misplays. There still might be some lingering about, but I did learn the basics, so it worked out. Like most lists, maximizing all of the main deck monsters are highly recommended. I run the 1-2-2, which isn't mandatory, but it did have some moments where it helped, and I also run triple Nyannyan just to set it up a lot easier and lower the risk of Desire screwing me over. All of the virtual world monsters except those two have the effect to special summon themselves from the hand by targeting a face of virtual world card on the field and sending a different card type from the deck to the graveyard. The next part of the effect varies between monsters, but it is important to use them correctly for proper combos and resource management. Once you use one of those special summon effects, you are locked into monsters with levels or ranks for the rest of the turn, so don't go looking for link monsters in this deck. Starting with Lili, on a successful special summon you can send a third virtual world card from the deck to the grave that wasn't the same type as the card you targeted, or the first card you sent to the grave. It's pretty simple setup, and when we get into the other cards I'll bring up what is good to send and what is not. Laolao is one of the most important tuners of the deck and another level 6 monster. On summon you can revive a virtual world monster from the grave with a different name from the one you sent. This is really important for getting those materials to the field to build that strong board you want, but it is recommended to use this when you have the ideal targets in the grave such as Lulu and Nyan-Nyan. Speaking of the kitty, it cannot special summon itself from the hand, but it can revive itself when any level 3 monster is normal or special summoned to your field, and it also becomes a tuner. This is key for plays, especially for ones where you find yourself a little restricted by the opponent for some reason. Lulu is without a doubt probably the most important main deck monster so far. On summon, Lulu searches the third card, which has to be different from the first two, and adds it to your hand, getting your plays rolling. You usually want to search monsters with this effect, but depending on the hand you could be forced to search a spell or trap, so try to see what options you have. The last monster is Jiji, which I grew to like more over time. After it's summoned during the end phase, you can add one VW monster back from the grave to the hand. Not only is this important to have for follow-up plays, it also gives you the food in your hand if you summon Dragoon, which can be one of the final monsters you end your turn on. Since getting our combo pieces out and rolling is important, Desires makes its way into the deck along with Foolish Burial Goods. Foolish Burial Goods can send Qinglong, Chuche, or Xuanwu, which all have grave effects to help your combos out. The priority will be Qinglong, but if you already have a way to get one in the grave, you can set up one of the other two. I personally like Triple Tactics talent as another chance to get more cards if we get disrupted, but it is also amazing going second with if your opponent is stacked up on the gates. Virtual World City Kauwloon places any other VW gate, spell, or trap face up onto the field for you, which makes it really good to see before you start your summoning. You almost always want to place Chuche face up since it has the value of popping cards right away, and it provides a nice target for VW monsters in the hand, but there may be certain spots where Qinglong could be needed, such as facing Shadow Window. The Jonin Joe special is mandatory since every monster can be hit by Ash Blossom, and this deck does have Psychic monsters, so E-Telly is ideal. Going to the extra deck real quick, this can be changed quite a bit based on personal preferences, but I did change some cards around like 8 times before I got comfortable. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is a new presence in the deck, which is now summonable through Oto-Hime Zoken and Muddy Mud Dragon. Going first, you ideally want to set up Oto-Hime on your 4th summon, with Crystal Wing being your 5th. After using Laolao or another means to synchro into Muddy, you can fuse it with Oto-Hime to make Dragoon, although it will not have its monster pop effect. It's exclusively to provide another negate alongside Crystal Wing and whatever else you can manage. High Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss is another alternative negate to make with Muddy Mud Dragon if you can't fuse, or Dragoon isn't as valuable for whatever reason. Vermilion Dragon Mech, Stardust Charge, and Cloud Castle are still solid options to go into when applicable, especially charged for the extra card. Since the rank 9 focus isn't too crazy anymore, We don't need double Cloud Castle or Crocodragon as much. Virtual World Kyuubi Shenshen is technically the boss monster of the deck, being a stronger version of Dark-Laolao with a self-revive effect that has minimal cost. Setting this up alone can stress some decks out, let alone if you have other negations set up. Constellar Ptolemy M7 is still mandatory for its recovery effect, especially if you can bring back a monster you sent but haven't summoned yet. I personally think Utopia Beyond is still useful in some cases going second, while Gossip Shadow is good to fall back on if your plays are heavily disrupted going first. I was running the new rank 9 Hypertron initially, but it doesn't feel as necessary for just a monster negate. I decided to roll with the Phantom Fortress, which can banish a card to help slow down your opponent later on follow-up turns. While the sequence is rolling out on screen, it's important to note that if you don't have a spell or trap in your hand, going into Oto-Hime is pretty worthless since it needs a card to be set to summon Crystal Wind. You could try to get lucky with a charge draw, but you have to decide if you want to risk the Nibiru if it is a thing. Gossip Shadow can also come into play here if you want to play things extra safe. Like I mentioned before, we can go into Muddy Muddragon here, who can then fuse itself and Oto-Hime into Dragoon for the third piece of disruption alongside Chuche. It may not come up all the time, but there were times that my field did get a little clogged full of monsters, so it is important to make use of the extra monster zone at some point with either Dragoon or Crystal Wind. Normally, I could end my turn with those 3 pieces of disruption and feel pretty decent about myself, but there is an added opportunity here for something else, and I decided to go for Kyuubi Shenshen. Ideally, this is a really good turn 1 setup, only struggling against Dark Ruler or Forbidden Droplets, but the important thing is that we somewhat have some follow-up opportunities next turn, even if those cards come up. That's going to be it for me, guys. There are some really good going second replays too, so I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Please like and subscribe, get us to 1,000 subscribers, and let me know what decks you guys want to see next.